Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at eTrailer, and today we're taking a look and installing the Demco Wireless Coachlink on a 2023 Chevy Silverado 1500. So the reason we're going to be installing the wireless Coachlink is when our neighbor installed their Stay and Play Duo, they went with a kit that has the LED lights for the indicator, which is a fine way to indicate that the brakes are being applied. So we had that installed on our rear view mirror. You can see when I press the brake, that is going to light up. And that's not a bad solution. A lot of times you can look in your rear view camera, see that lighting up. Now sometimes on sunny days you're going to get a glare on the windshield, and sometimes if you have a not so high quality camera, it's going to be hard to see. So if you wanted to, you can actually make it to where you can see it light up on your dash, and that way you can look right away and get a quick visual cue that the brakes are being applied. And that's what we're doing with our wireless Coachlink. So on our vehicle side, we have our transmitter box, and it's just going to be two wires that we're going to need to attach. If you have your wires kind of tucked up for that LED light that you already had previously installed, go ahead, get those loose because we're going to be tying into these. And this is going to be a pretty easy install. You can use quick splices. I'm going to use butt connectors and just cut and make new connections. I feel a little bit better about that. So our red wire is going to go to the cold side of our brake light switch. On this vehicle in particular, we do have a stoplight switch that we added in, and that's a Roadmaster. So we have a wire that comes off of that goes eventually to our indicator light, which is going to be green. So we'll be tying our red into that. And then our white wire just goes to a ground. And the way that I wired this up previously, I used the black wire off of our G-force controller. That way it's a factory ground, or it's a ground on the braking system. And that just simply means that these aren't going to be kicking on when this is swapped off. It has to be armed in order for that to work. So that way you don't have those lights going off when you're just randomly driving. So I'll go ahead, I'll make my connections, and then I'll show you how it looks. So as I mentioned previous, you can use a quick splice to just tie this wire into it, but I'm going to go ahead and just make a whole new connection here, so I'll make sure this is swapped off. I'm just going to cut this back here, and then we'll strip back both ends. And then we'll just take a butt connector. You're going to probably want a 1210, that way it can account for both of the wires, and then we're just going to put our red wire in with this one green here, and then we're going to crimp this down, and then just make sure it's a good connection by just kind of giving a quick tug. Those wires should stay in place, and then we'll connect this other side. Now my black wire that's going to go to the factory ground, it's tucked back there quite a bit. So you're basically just going off that black wire that you have. You can also just put this to a ground using a ring terminal and finding either a factory screw, or you can just self-tap it in. It's up to you. But again, since we already have that run into our ground, I'll go ahead and make that connection. I just kind of traced that back from our indicator light that was already there and just tied in with a butt connector. Now before we get everything tidied up and zip tied and clean mounted underneath, we need to test to make sure that it works. So if you have a 12-volt cigarette lighter in your truck, I know a lot of the newer vehicles don't, you can also test it on your RV. So just plug this into the 12-volt cigarette lighter, and this should light up with this power here. And then all we need to do is apply the brakes and make sure that it lights up. Along with the wireless Coachlink working, we've also retained our LED indicator light, so you got two forums to let you know when those brakes are being applied. Now something that this has, not only by just making it a little bit more visual and right there at your dash, it also has a buzzer. There's a switch here on the back. You can turn it on or off, and this is going to give you something that the LED light doesn't. And that's simply if your brakes are dragging. Say something got hung up or whatever reason, instead of dragging your brakes down the road, after about 5 seconds, you're gonna hear the buzzer kick on, letting you know that the brakes are being applied for longer than those 5 seconds and that they might be dragging. And that was a look and installation of the Demco Wireless Coachlink on a 2023 Chevy Silverado 1500.